Well, good evening. Nothing like a little Springsteen to get everything going. It is wonderful to be here with so many friends. Thank you, Matt, and the RJC team for letting me be here. Senator Coleman, thank you, too, for including me. Mr. Vice President, I think Vice President's sitting here. It's good to see you. It's great to be your warm-up act tonight. Who knows? The next time we're together, we could be on a stage, multiple podiums. Who knows who else might be with us? Yeah, who knows? And who knows who will between us, and who knows what nicknames we might have. It's it is great fun to be with so many friends and to break bread with my Jewish friends. Although I do not eat as much bread as I used to, thank God. Yeah. And I always learn something new. I was talking to someone earlier tonight. They reminded me that we were asking about Hanukkah and Christmas, and they said, don't forget the Chinese food on Christmas. So I love it. It reminded me, too, tonight when I was a pretty junior member of Congress. I was in Jerusalem. I was invited to a Shabbat dinner by a senior former IDF general. He had 4 generations of his family there. My wife was with me. It reminded me, too, that we draw a common cause and shared values, even though we are of different faiths. And we have a lot more friends around us. Indeed, that night I felt like his family. Tonight I feel like we are family. He had spent his whole life defending his nation. Think about these 2 experiments, 2 mighty bands of brothers, 2 audacious nations with an experiment founded in the belief that driven by conscience and conviction, freedom-loving people can rise and make their own nations and their own peoples, and indeed our whole world better. So the good news is I'm the former Secretary of State, so you get Mike Pompeo unplugged. And let's have that family conversation amongst friends. Let's talk about how we build on the things that matter to families all across our country. We did remarkable work for 4 years. I'm incredibly proud of that. But it's going to take real seriousness, real resolve, people of character to build on that. It's going to take a long time to reverse the things that are happening to our nation today. In fact, it may well take 8 years to fix it. We should be determined to commit the time required to achieve that. The enemies of democracy train their crosshairs on America. They are coming after our ideals, the centrality of our nation. We can all feel it. We can feel higher prices at home. We can feel that our kids aren't as safe when they walk in the neighborhood. We can see what's happening at the southern border. It is indeed, as President Reagan spoke of, it is indeed a time for choosing for America. We can choose to believe in the values that birthed the American family, or we could retreat from those foundations. I served as Secretary of State, and I can tell you firsthand, the stability and security of the world are depending on America to be strong at home, courageous abroad, and to build a deep and abiding relationship with the nation of Israel. This all begins with a core belief in America. We must have that. We have to be strong, united in purpose. We need leaders who will show the way that conservatives get elected in America. Leaders who will fight for them, not for ourselves or our own egos, but for them. When we provide a clear and confident path, good things happen in America. I talked about families. Strong families are guided by a shared purpose and a common cause. They put aside self-promotion and petty difference in the name of doing good for the whole. I am confident that we can do this. This is true whether we're talking about our own family, our communities, our nation, or even the family of nations. I remember one day when President Trump called me, he asked me if I'd read the Washington Post that morning because the headline had been Mike Pompeo, President Trump's most loyal cabinet member. And I remember saying to him, "Sir, I stopped reading the Washington Post. My cardiologist made me." And then I said, "Mr. President, you should know they didn't intend that as a compliment." And so he laughed and said, "You know, you're right," and he hung up. This loyalty, this work that we must do together is not to a person. This loyalty that I executed alongside Vice President Pence for 4 years was to our nation. It was to a common cause. I was loyal. I worked hard. I did every day everything that I could to honor and be loyal to the oath that I took when I raised my right hand to defend the country. It wasn't a loyalty to a person or a party or a faction. It was to you and the promises that we had made to the United States of America. As I think about it, we're all focused on last Tuesday. I'm proud of how well we did. I certainly wish we had done better, but it seems obvious to me. I ran for office 4 times for Congress in South Central Kansas. The choices are really obvious. We have to find people who are putting themselves forward, who have character, commitment, and real competence. This will be the call of America. They need a vision for what has grounded our nation for decades. Personality and celebrity just aren't going to get it done. We can see that. The American people, you can see the data. The American people did not want to look backward. They wanted to look forward. They care about what happens tomorrow, not what happened yesterday. They're looking for people who have demonstrable claim to have the level of excellence to deliver good things for themselves, their communities, and their families. We want them to do the right thing because it is good, not because it might help them get elected. We want them to do the right thing not because it makes them happy and people will applaud for them. Our party and our country need these strong leaders now more than ever. I spent 4 years in the administration, first serving as the director of the Central Intelligence Agency. By the way, a great gig. No media. Think about it. But as you think about that world, we can see that the line between things that happen abroad and things that happen here is very blurred. The idea that there is some notion of a secure America without a strong and prosperous nation at home, or a strong and prosperous nation here at home without an America prepared to defend its core values and protect itself from our adversaries, seems nonsensical. We could see that what happened in Syria with ISIS, or what happened in Beijing with China, or what happens in Tehran, this mattered to people all across the country. People and families are impacted from Oregon to Arizona, from New York to Nevada. If we don't get it right abroad, then our nation will be weaker. And if we don't do the things that we know are right here at home, the capacity for the 72nd or 73rd or 74th Secretary of State will be tremendously diminished. We can see that everything was in place for a conservative wave. I've seen candidates that blame others. They point the finger. I ran 4 times. We are each responsible for our own destiny, along with our maker. And so my admonishment to all is that what is really required as we present the conservative case, as we make the argument, which is what matters, we make the argument and win the argument, and we do so with joy and a smile, that we work our tails off, that we don't simply rail against the machine, that we don't simply go on Fox News or send tweets. We actually do the hard work of making the winning argument about why the conservative ideas deliver good outcomes for every single American. I was reminded by my son the other day that when I first ran for Congress, I entered the race in 2009. There were 7 people on the ballot. My name ID was 2% in the first poll that we took. And I told the pollster, that's all my family. And I know them. I'm only getting half of those votes. We have much work to do. It is simply not enough to own the libs. It is simply not enough to complain. One has to go make the case. I think we had too many folks who weren't out there actively presenting solutions that the American people can count on. I I saw this in my time as Secretary of State. We had to make the argument around the world. When the president made the remarkable decision to move the American embassy to Jerusalem, the rightful homeland of the Israeli people, we knew that this was important because it was real, it was right, it was decent. And we also knew that it was good for the United States. It was the foundation of what became the Abraham Accords. When I think about the Abraham Accords, we often think about the remarkable leaders that put it in place. That is certainly true, but I think about the outcomes that we could not have dreamed of. 6 years ago, if I'd have stood here and told you that when a United Arab Emirates jet scrambles into the air, that today it is scrambling not to attack Israel, but to fly in formation with Israeli pilots. That's remarkable. As we stand here today, there are aircraft traveling from Tel Aviv to Doha. That's remarkable. And I think about what it means for us here in the United States. By creating more prosperity and more stability in that region, recognizing that negotiating with the terrorists was a fool's errand. By getting that right, we reduce the risk that our young men and women in service might ever have to go and fight and risk their lives in that place. It is unambiguously good domestically for the American people that the Abraham Accords continue to thrive and build, and this momentum is never lost. I get asked from time to time, would Ukraine have been invaded if we were still there? And I can't answer that question because we didn't get 4 more years. But I can tell you this, it didn't happen on our watch. And I think about the model. It was a model that was a realist model. We understood the world as it is, and we deterred the bad guys. We were credible. It wasn't about words, it was about actions that we demonstrated we were prepared to take. I remember so well, we were beginning to lose containment, deterrence against the Islamic Republic of Iran. They'd fired and shot down 2 American UAVs. They'd launched cruise missiles in September of 18 into Abqaiq, Saudi Arabia. September of 19. We knew we had to get back that deterrence. We had to convince the bad guys that we were serious, and we did. We took a strike on General Soleimani that changed the world and created peace. Family. We protected American families with a strike because not only did Iran change its behavior from that point forward, but so did Xi Jinping in China. So did Chairman Kim in South Korea. The Taliban understood what we were doing too, and so did Vladimir Putin. He knew that we were serious about protecting America. When we said we were friends and partners with the nation of Israel, that we were prepared to defend the Zionist project, we were serious and we worked to deliver real outcomes that mattered, not yesterday, but tomorrow. I worry about American institutions, the family amongst them. These institutions, our churches, our synagogues, are under attack. Post-COVID, attendance in these places remains down. These institutions are central to the well-being of our nation. The capacity of each of us to practice our own faith here and to protect religious freedom abroad matters to each of us. This administration has chosen a very different path, and I regret it, and it will take true, serious leadership, not tweets, to fix what ails those institutions. I think of the military that I served in now, goodness, too long ago, back when I could actually fit in an M1 tank. I watch a military that has lost the focus on its mission. It's now training officers and soldiers and non-commissioned officers on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's now talking about every military vehicle being carbon neutral by 2030. These are not the things of serious military leaders, and they are not the things of a serious military. This matters. Our adversaries are watching. I can assure you that the Chinese army right now is not conducting diversity, equity, and inclusion training. And it's worth noting for those of us who are conservative, this is an idea that is central to our nation. Sign me up for diversity. My first tank gunner was an immigrant who had come to the United States of America from Syria. But I didn't choose him because he was a diversity candidate. I chose him because he was a really good tank gunner and I wanted to live. I wanted excellence. I wanted excellence and hard work and merit. All the same things that are central to delivering for conservatives all across America as we put candidates forward in school board races and county commission races and city council races all across our country. I see it just like you do. I can see that we live in an age driven by celebrity. I saw a survey the other day that said 30% of our children would rather produce a YouTube video than spend time with their teacher or practice music or become an astronaut. The family, our core institutions, need to remind young people that there are things that are bigger than themselves. And if they will spend more time thinking about our founding documents, our Declaration of Independence, if they'll spend more time reading the Bible than the 1619 Project, then good things will happen for the United States of America. Each of us serves a higher purpose. I remember so well the first time I went to meet Chairman Kim. I had trained, I had practiced, I was ready. But I was heading there at the moment that we had just had an American returned, a fellow named Otto Warmbier, who died as a result of the harm inflicted of him inside North Korean prison. We still had 3 Americans held there. But the good work that the team did, the hard work, the seriousness with which we approached it, gave us this brilliant opportunity. And on my second visit, I was able to return home with my aircraft, holding 3 more Americans than when we arrived in North Korea. That second meeting also marked a turning point in my life. I passed Dennis Rodman as the American record holder for the time with Chairman Kim. I told my son I would break NBA records, and there you go. We can laugh too. We can bring joy. We can pursue our movement and our conservative ideas from the spirit with which our Creator understood human dignity. This is serious business, but we need not be angry. We need not be mean. We need not call names. We need to make the case and win the argument. And when we do, I am confident. I am deeply confident that not only will the relationship with the United States and Israel continue to flourish, but this great nation will get another 250 remarkable years. Yeah. Thank you. God bless you. And may God bless the United States of America.